10 years into the future, in the Eastern Federation Kingdom, the story begins. In this timeline, the kingdom doesn't stand a chance. The 5 great sins are coming, and nothing's stopping them from wiping everything out. With all that power in their hands, they set off a huge explosion that completely changed how things would go from then on. By the end, the whole kingdom would end up destroyed, left in pieces and covered in dust. Trying to stop things from getting any worse, one guy is working on a seriously big plan. His plan is to support the kids who are going to turn into villains later on, basically taking care of them before they go down the wrong path. He never thought this mission would turn out to be such a huge deal. Inside a fancy mansion, someone sat quietly flipping through the pages of a book. The place was silent except for the soft sound of paper turning, giving off a chill, almost mysterious vibe. The main guy used to work a regular office job, stuck behind a desk every day. Now, things couldn't be more different. He's been reborn into a rich family, living a life he never imagined. Here's the thing, he can't read, doesn't have any cool abilities, and right now, he's even holding the book upside down. A few moments later, a butler let him know that his food was ready in the dining hall. After finishing a big meal, the young guy leaned back, feeling full and relaxed. He was about to get up when the maid showed up, ready to help him get cleaned up for a bath. At first, the main character didn't really know what to think when he found himself living as a rich young master. But it didn't take long for him to get used to it. Pretty soon, he was enjoying the easy life. No responsibilities, lots of nice stuff, and everyone treating him like he was important. He settled into his new role, not really worrying about being lazy or spoiled. For now, he was just rolling with it. He sat back in the tub, letting out a laugh. Warm water covered him, and honestly, this felt pretty great. He didn't really know where he was, but at that moment, he didn't care. This was the kind of chill moment he could get used to. The maid let it slip that the other young masters would be coming back the next day. That just left the main character standing there, totally lost, and not really sure what was going on. She explains that she's talking about the young master, Leo. He's sitting there looking confused, like he doesn't even recognize his own family. When the name comes up, something inside just sinks. It's not the first time this name has been mentioned, and every time it brings back some pretty uneasy memories. There's this heavy feeling, like remembering something you wish you could forget, and it's hard to shake off. Out of nowhere, he panics and dunks his head underwater. The main guys around him totally lose it. When he wakes up, it suddenly hits him. He's actually inside the world of the game, Psychedelia. Psychedelia is the world where these 5 bad guys are trying to take over, and he's the only one who can stop them before things get out of hand. This turn-based RPG was the game the guy couldn't get enough of. Every chance he got, he'd be right back at it, completely hooked. He spent almost all his free time on the game, sometimes staying up until morning just to get his character stronger. No matter what choices were made in the game, the 5 big sins always showed up. When they showed up, it was clear things were about to go bad for the kingdom. The nobles and everyone in the cities could sense it. Something big and dangerous was coming, and it was heading straight for them. Out of all the noble families, the family was always the first to go down. The young guy falls to his knees, frozen in place. He knows this messed up family better than anyone, and the memories hit him hard. It's not just fear, it's the kind of dread that settles in your chest when old problems come back to haunt you. Digging into the shady secrets of the palatial family was something players tackled right at the start of the game. He stood in front of the mansion, staring up at it like it was some kind of bad joke. Out of all the places he could have ended up, it just had to be this one. Things only got more complicated now that he was Alan, the 3rd son in a throwaway villain family. He lay on his bed, desperate and restless, wishing he could just go back to his old life working a regular job. RMC's eyes started to water. He thought about how he'd rather deal with a late paycheck than find out he's only got 10 years left to live. The idea really hit him. Money problems seemed way easier compared to something this serious. He keeps complaining to himself about how all the other main characters in stories get cool powers. But when he showed up, he didn't get anything at all. Just then, something important clicks in his head about what he's dealing with. He already knows what's coming, so he's got a real shot at stopping the world from falling apart before it even starts. Hoping for a calm and comfortable life among the nobles, he decides it's time to change the 5 big sins that have messed things up for everyone. Thinks it's going to be a breeze, since the people he's up against are just kids. He's so focused on that, he doesn't even remember something important that could totally change how things go. 2 months later, word got around that he'd saved a bunch of orphans from some sketchy lab where people were messing with them. He sat down and quickly moved ahead. Now he was talking things over with who always stuck around at night. The young master finishes up his night, kinda proud of what he pulled off. He knows he did well and can't help but feel good about his skills. Looks kind of confused, not really sure if Alan just gave him a real compliment or not. Alan's face doesn't give anything away, making it tough for to figure out what he actually meant. The main character tries to pull off a smile, but it's pretty obvious he's not really into it. Deep down, he's not thrilled about teaming up with, but he still goes along with it, pretending he's looking forward to working together. That night, he thought it was strange. He remembered how his master used to wear his heart on his sleeve, never hiding how he felt. Alan started to realize that even though he was in control of his new body, his face just wouldn't cooperate. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull off a normal smile. It was like his brain was running things, but his facial muscles weren't following along. Ivan takes the compliment without making a big deal out of it. The main guy watches him and remembers why he picked Ivan for the job in the first place. It's because Ivan never lets anyone down. Loyalty like that is hard to find. That night, questions started floating around about whether everything had been planned just to help the girl, Yuchia. Even though he'd seen a lot as an ex-mercenary, he could tell right away that this girl wasn't like the other kids. The memory hit him, the time he first found her locked up with a group of orphans. That moment stuck with him, making it clear she stood out from the rest. Even with chains holding her back, the girl still seemed strong, like nothing could really break her spirit. He just couldn't understand why she'd let herself get caught in the first place. Right now, Ivan can't help but wonder why his master chose not to bring her to the mansion. The decision just doesn't sit right with him, and his mind keeps circling back to it, trying to figure out what he's missing. The main guy understands that leaving her behind could make it seem like he's ditching her, just like New Collect did. But honestly, he's not being careless. It's all part of what he's planning next. Here's the real story. The girls from once made a deal with some mysterious being from another world, all because they wanted to get their hands on the kind of strength guys usually have. In the original timeline, she ends up as Wrath, one of the 5 big sins. Because of her actions, hundreds of thousands of people lose their lives. Thinks that if she grows up in a calm, safe place, she won't end up turning into a villain. He figures this is the best way to stop a big problem before it even starts. Now he just has to figure out a decent excuse for his date, who's still sitting there, waiting to hear what happened. The young master's face turned serious. He looked like he had something important on his mind, but he kept it to himself, thinking that now just wasn't the right moment to say anything. Even just stared at the message, totally lost. He kept trying to figure out what it was supposed to mean, but nothing made sense. Cuts off the conversation and makes it clear he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. He tells someone to send money over to help out the orphanage. He gives a letter, and his friend wonders if there's something important inside. He just brushes it off, thinking it's just a quick note to see how she's doing. In his mind, it's nothing more than a small gesture to reassure her. The knight left, riding off into the night just like he'd been told to do. Alan stood by his office window, watching the guy disappear into the darkness. He didn't move, just stayed there for a while, thinking about what was coming next. The main character looked out the window, thinking about his options. Even though it probably wouldn't work, he figured trying to take the girl to court was still better than doing nothing. Turns out, the real reason for the letters was to slip in a line he'd heard over and over again while playing the game. The Archbishop tried using some kind of special charm, hoping it would calm down the nasty troublemaker. All of this happened while she was going through her character arc in the game's trippy, dreamlike world. In the game's story, the girl got so caught up in her own power that no one could help her, no matter how hard they tried. No matter what anyone tried, nothing worked to calm her down, and things quickly turned into a fight. Now, in this world, Alan really believes he can still change what happens to her. Trying to make friends with a monster just by saying something sounds pretty ridiculous, but he decides to go for it anyway. These beings follow strange gods from somewhere far beyond, and have a way of thinking that just doesn't make sense to most people. After realizing these people were just straight up obsessed, the focus shifted to who was opening a letter that would change everything. Even delivers the message, but he can't help noticing how intense the girl is. Her energy kind of throws him off, making him pause for a second. He thinks she's kind of weird and doesn't show much emotion. She just sits there, quietly reading the letter, barely reacting to anything around her. The little girl glances up, her eyes searching for any sign that Lord really sent the message. She looks a bit unsure, not totally convinced, like she's trying to figure out if she can trust what she's hearing. Out of nowhere, she snaps and gets really angry, glaring at him. She's upset and wants to know why he keeps pushing her away. Even could barely breathe from the heavy weight of her mana. His heart pounded, and every muscle felt frozen. It was like standing in front of something way bigger and scarier than he'd ever faced, and he couldn't help but tense up, hoping it would end soon. He realizes that pulling off that much mana is something only the top guys in the master room can do. He didn't really know what to say, so his mind wandered back to all the excuses his master had given him earlier that night. He stumbles over his words as he repeats what Alan said earlier about how the timing isn't right yet. Hearing this, the girl relaxes right away. The letter had the same words they used in the game, kind of like a secret code only they understood. Holds the letter close, thinking it means something special that only her master would get. The night night seems to freeze for a second as the girl's whole vibe changes. It's only then that the truth behind her actions finally clicks, and everything starts to make sense. He suddenly figures out that this girl is the Blood Queen everyone talks about. She's the one who's supposed to become the villain known for her rage. Back at the mansion, the main guy finally relaxed, pretty satisfied that he'd managed to buy himself some extra time. He gets fired up, ready to take on his big idea. Even the moon up above looks like it's rooting for him. Later on, the young guy found himself in the library, digging through stacks of books. He was so focused on finding answers that he almost got lost under all the reading material. That night, while he was still frustrated, his knight showed up and let him know that the second child had been saved. The young master wanted to make sure the boy was okay. He checked in, wanting to know if the boy had been treated gently, and made sure he really was safe now. While the raid on the illegal slave market was going down, spotted someone tearing through the crowd, moving way faster than anyone else. It was just a quick look, but it stuck with him. Whoever that was didn't move like a normal person. Out of nowhere, a guy showed up in the library. It was Tony O, known as the second son in the family. The older brother teased the main character for carrying a book around, even though everyone knew he couldn't actually read it. He grabs him pretty hard, and right away, the main guy thinks about how would have handled this in the past. He thinks it over for a second, then decides not to start anything. He lowers his head a bit, acting like he was just about to leave anyway. Acting all smug, doesn't stop at just beating his younger brother. He walks over and gives him a kick while he's already on the ground, making things even worse for his little brother. Suddenly, a dagger came flying through the air and slammed into the wall, stopping just a few inches from his face. The newcomer stepped in and told the insects to quiet down. Just stood there, frozen, not sure what to think. Leo was the oldest in the house, and mornings really weren't his thing. He just wanted some peace and quiet before starting his day, not whatever nonsense his family was already getting into. Leo shot Tonio a sharp look, clearly annoyed. He wanted Tonio to stop acting like a player and let him know he wasn't exactly smelling fresh either. He remembers how in the game the family didn't last long. Still, even before things went downhill for them, they had serious power and everyone knew their name. His two brothers, both pretty ruthless, were caught up in a nasty fight over who'd get to be the next head of the family. Neither of them was willing to back down, and everyone could tell things were only getting more intense between them. To get done, to put it simply, Leo stands out as a major player in the underworld. Everyone knows him as the king of seduction, and his reputation is hard to ignore. Knows what he's doing. He runs his cartel with enough skill and confidence that people have started calling him the king of good. When he realizes he's about to run into them, the main guy dips out fast. He's got zero interest in getting dragged into whatever chaos they're about to start. Now that he could finally get some sleep at night, the main guy started thinking about how to stay safe. He figured his best bet was to act like he didn't know what he was doing, just blending in and not standing out. So he chose to go along with things, pretending to be just another clueless guy who didn't really matter. He flopped down on the couch, completely wiped out. While he tried to catch his breath, brought up that the second rescue kid wasn't exactly normal either. The young master rests quietly, staring off into space like he's deep in his own head. Nearby, his knight keeps an eye on him, just watching and waiting. Even couldn't help but wonder how his master seemed to know so many hidden things. It was kind of wild, and he found himself really curious about how his master picked up all these dark secrets. The knight saw how tired the young guy looked and figured he must be pushing himself way too hard. He thought his master was pretty weird sometimes, but at least the kid they saved made it to the orphanage okay. The main character thinks back and realizes that calling Colin unusual doesn't even come close. Colin isn't just weird. He's the kind of guy who brings chaos wherever he goes, the sort of person who could turn a normal day upside down without even trying. In this place, a bunch of different countries have come together to make one big kingdom, but everyone knows is the one calling the shots. The boy they had just rescued was still there. The person who came out of the slave market was actually the second big boss from the game. After being sold into slavery, the boy went through a lot. He got handed off from one owner to another, never staying in one place for long. Each time he thought things might get better, they just seemed to get harder. Every day brought something new to deal with, and he had to find a way to keep going, even when it felt impossible. All this non-stop torment wore him down until he basically turned into sloth itself, barely moving, barely caring, just letting the days blur together. In the future, he would end up insanely strong, taking down whole kingdoms and leaving nothing behind. The way he did it was brutal. No one who saw it could forget. Even though everyone called him lazy, the guy actually worked hard. That's why the main character always tried to be nice to him. He got sent back to the orphanage for the same reason as last time. Things just weren't working out yet. He wrote a letter too, keeping things casual at first. Near the end, he added something important he wanted to ask her. The young man wanted her to keep an eye on a new kid he was sending over. The kid wasn't feeling too great, so he hoped she could help out. At the orphanage, little Deuce sat by himself while the other kids kept their distance. He watched them from the corner, not really part of what was going on. Even though they were all in the same place, Deuce always seemed to be on his own, alone, left out by the others. Right then someone walks up to him. She's come looking for him. Walked up to the boy and could tell right away that he looked completely defeated. There was nothing left in his eyes, no spark, no fight. It was like he'd given up on everything. She noticed his hands and saw the strange marks, stuff that looked like it came from some seriously dark ritual. The girl looked at him, trying to figure out if the black oat ritual was the reason he looked so worn out. She watched him closely, clearly wondering if that whole thing was what messed him up this badly. Even though he wasn't in the best shape, she gave him props. She knew he'd been through a lot, and now the moon had picked him like he'd passed some kind of test. She encourages him to accept the new strength he has, pushing him forward. As he listens, something inside him changes, and he starts to tap into abilities he didn't even know he had. It's like all the stuff he'd been holding back finally comes out, surprising even himself. She reached out her hand, a sly grin on her face. It was clear she wanted him to join her master, like she was offering him a deal he couldn't ignore. After waiting what felt like forever, the boy was finally about to get back at everyone who messed with him. All the things he'd been holding onto, all those moments he replayed in his head, were finally leading up to this. It wasn't just about payback. It was something he couldn't let go of, no matter how much time passed. Now, with everything lined up just right, he was ready to face those who'd hurt him. This was his moment, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. After dropping off her message, she grabs his letter and figures it's finally her turn to write back. The girl sends her reply, tossing in a quick, honest greeting for her master. Back at the family mansion, life rolls on like usual. The place is packed with all the fancy stuff you'd expect, but there's always something going on behind the scenes. Even with all the comfort and routines, there's this steady buzz of secrets and drama that never really goes away. The main guy finally gets a quiet moment to himself, just hanging out and letting his mind chill. Out of nowhere, his younger brother crashes into the room, totally panicked. Instantly, the calm is gone, and it's obvious that something big just happened. He gets so worked up that he nearly blurts out something disrespectful about the second master, almost forgetting the protagonist is right there watching. The young man just stood there, totally confused, trying to figure out what happened to his brother. Everyone heard the news that his brother had been found on the floor of the mansion, not moving at all. The second son's funeral was quiet, with only a handful of people really sad about him being gone. Count sat there with two women, both of them clearly uninterested in what was going on. Alan looks around at the messed up scene, thinking his family could honestly belong in some twisted fantasy story. He stared at the casket, not buying the story about an accidental fall. He knew that wasn't what went down in the game. Something about the whole situation felt off. In the game's story, Leo, the older brother, would end up taking out a few years down the line just to make sure he kept his spot as the heir. At the funeral, Leo stands there with this smug grin on his face. The main character spots him right away and just knows, deep down, that Leo's the one behind everything. Doesn't really care about all the family drama going on in the mansion. For him, it's just background noise, something he's gotten used to tuning out. He zeroed in on what he wanted deep down, not letting anything distract him. He keeps his focus on what really matters, taking care of the threat from the 5 sins. A year passed, and now that the whole thing about who would take over was finally sorted out, the mansion felt calm again. Everything seemed to slow down, and the place was a lot quieter than before. The protagonist sat quietly at night, sipping his tea. He looked pretty calm, just letting the new call sink in. There was a hint of curiosity on his face as he thought about what might come next, enjoying the peaceful moment before things changed. During this time, the main guy and started writing letters to each other, so he could stay updated on what was going on with her. In her most recent letter, she wrote about how well the kids were doing. As he read about their little wins and new habits, he couldn't help but smile. The way she talked about them just hit different, making him feel a little lighter inside. At the end of the letter, there was a list showing the new people who had decided to support the orphanage. Notices the list is getting longer and thinks it's pretty awesome. The guy next to him totally agrees. It's actually good news for both of them. As the night goes on, the focus changes. Guild has finally picked up a lead in their search, and everyone starts paying attention. It's like the room gets a little more serious, with people looking at Guild and waiting to see what will happen next. The young master finally relaxes. Now he knows he can track down the third boss from the gate, and that takes a weight off his shoulders. Everything was going according to plan, and the main guy was getting ready for a calm, laid-back night. Everything suddenly changed when a desperate scream cut through the air, breaking the calm. That's when they stumbled onto something they never expected, something messed up enough to make anyone's stomach drop. At the loading dock, a few guys stood around, talking about how Leo, their boss, always looked out for them. They mentioned how he was the kind of boss who actually cared, not just about work, but about the people working for him. Everyone seemed to respect him for that. The group usually ran smooth with tons of people involved, but out of nowhere, things just blew up into total chaos. One of them suddenly loses control, like something's messing with his mind. Before he knows it, he's swinging at his own teammate, unable to stop himself no matter how hard he tries. The man's voice echoes out as he calls for help, but there's nothing he can do to stop what's happening. Even though he doesn't want to, he can't control what his body is doing, and he's stuck just watching everything spin out of control. Chaos keeps erupting as the gang members suddenly start fighting each other, everyone going wild. People are pushing, throwing punches, and it's impossible to tell who's on whose side anymore. The place turns into a mess, with everyone looking out for themselves. One guy managed to make it through, desperate for someone to notice him. He looked around, hoping for help. Far off, someone else stood there, just watching everything go down, not moving an inch. Little Deuce was the one running the whole show, clearly enjoying himself as he pulled all the strings behind the scenes. The girl stood next to him, probably wondering what any of this was even for. The boy, though, just acted like she wasn't there, not paying her any attention at all. Dis wondered if actually felt bad for those guys, but didn't. She just couldn't stand how they took advantage of others. The boy starts telling everyone that everything they're doing is about getting things ready for when their master comes back. The girl nods, knowing everything needs to look perfect before Alan shows up. She starts tidying up, making sure not a single thing is out of place. Working together, they focused all their power at one spot, building up a huge burst of energy there. The two of them take off into the sky, totally sure that everything's about to go just how their master wants. After the huge explosion, the whole district is just gone. There's nothing left. No buildings, no streets, just ruins stretching as far as you can see. It's all dust and rubble now, the kind of scene that leaves people staring, trying to wrap their heads around how fast everything changed. The mark of the blue moon burns into the ground, leaving a bold sign for everyone to see. In that moment, they step forward, showing everyone that they're ready to stand up for their own legend. 2 more years went by, and he kept in touch with the YouTuber, messaging back and forth like usual. Back at the mansion, Ivan is running around, checking every room and hallway. He's clearly stressed, worried that his young master is nowhere to be found. Every time he thinks he hears something, he rushes over only to find the place empty. The longer the search goes on, the more anxious he gets, thinking about what could have happened. He spots the guy hanging out in the yard. The young man looks up and nods at him, looking pretty relaxed, like he's just enjoying the day. Late at night, word quietly spread that the last target, number 5, made it to the orphanage without any trouble. Lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He knows now that the other 3 sins are safe, and that takes a huge weight off his mind. The young master handed over a slice of cake, and the boy took it right away, mouth already stuffed but clearly enjoying every bite. After spending a whole year looking everywhere, they finally managed to track down the sin of greed. It hadn't been easy. Every lead seemed to go nowhere, and most days it felt like chasing shadows. But after all that time and effort, they pulled it off. The main character let know he'd done a great job, and that, since the orphanage mission was finished, he could finally take a break. Once let everyone know they were finished, he finally felt like he could relax. The stress from the night started to fade, and it was a bit easier for him to breathe. Wondered why his master didn't seem to notice that everyone else thought the mission was already finished. Even though the main guy keeps saying he's smiling, his face never really shows it. His expression just stays flat, like he's not giving anything away, no matter what he claims. Stands up and stretches out on the grass, enjoying the moment. The wind feels good, and he just lets himself relax, taking it all in. He settles back, pretty satisfied, realizing things actually turned out better than he expected. The scene cuts to a quick of the bosses from Psychedelia. Each one comes from a rough background, full of hard times and pain. Everyone could see that each of them ended up as one of the 5 great sins because of the tough stuff they went through in the past. There was almost no chance anyone could have saved them all before things went wrong. That's why the main character decided to help them first, not wanting things to get any worse. He knew if he waited, it might be too late to pull them back. Sat down to write his letter. While doing that, he thought about the orphanage and wanted to know what was going on there lately. That night, word got around that the kids, who used to look lost and out of it, were actually starting to bounce back. After hearing that, figures he doesn't need to bring in any more caretakers. He was surprised at how well handled everything at the orphanage by herself. She probably felt connected to the place because of how she acted in the game. Looking at things differently, he started to understand that was actually a decent guy deep down. While he was thinking about this, brought up the letter. UTA wrote to say the kids were doing fine, and there wasn't anything to stress about. The young man stands a little taller, feeling good about himself. He realizes that being in a positive place really changes things for the better. Ivan gets curious about what's going on. He starts to wonder when the young master is actually going to meet the kids. He looks away, making it clear he doesn't want to face them right now. Becoming a sin was honestly terrifying. Anyone going through it lost themselves, and the person they used to be was already scary enough. He rescued them before they even knew about their powers, but deep down, he still can't shake his fear of what they might do. He figures maybe in another 5 years, he'll finally work up enough nerve to meet up. Even though it's a tough world out there, the main character makes up his mind. He knows he can't just sit back and hope things get better. He needs to figure out how to look out for himself, no matter how crazy things get. He's always been pretty good at magic, picking it up faster than most. One night, while things are quiet, Someone asks if he knows anything about the Blue Moon. Didn't recognize the name, so Ivan went ahead and told him it was a group that tracked down criminal gangs. The main character hears about the cause and thinks it sounds pretty decent, but he figures it doesn't have anything to do with him. In his mind, he expects that people will stop talking about it soon anyway, so he just moves on without giving it much thought. He also mentions that these guys have already taken down some nobles, so he figured his master would probably know about them. Couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up on him. Just to be safe, he told his knight to crash in the room next door that night, figuring it'd be better to have someone close by in case anything weird happened. At the Blue Moon's base hidden inside the orphanage, the kids gathered together for their usual weekly check-in. One of the girls wanted to know what was going on in the northern sector and the ceiling. Let everyone know she already took care of it. She talks about how she took down the slave traders, and nobody ever figured out who she really was. After she finished her rhyme, the sin of greed let everyone know she'd taken care of all the bodies without leaving any mess behind. She lets everyone know the southern area is under control now, and all the illegal labs have been shut down for good. Known as the Sin of Purity, steps forward and lets everyone know that the Avalon gang is completely gone. There's nothing left of them. No signs, no trails, nothing. Just like that, they've disappeared. She looks satisfied, knowing everything is going the way her master planned. The group gives themselves a new name, Blue Moon. They decide they're all about the Great Moon now, living for it and doing everything in its honor. Out of nowhere, things start to get complicated and can't help but think about what might have messed things up. Deuce points out that Sleater isn't just anyone. He's actually the oldest son of Count. While everyone was busy cleaning up in the south, someone found a document that hinted Leo might be up to something. Hears the news and anger hits him hard. He just can't wrap his head around the idea that someone would actually go after his master. It's like everything stops for a second, and all he can think about is how wrong this is. The rest of the Blue Moon crew straightened up fast, watching for any sign that they'd need to jump in. The girl gets ready to teach the eldest son of Count a tough lesson he won't forget. She's the type who doesn't let anyone mess with what her master wants. If someone tries to get in the way, she's not going to let it slide. Everyone stands around, barely moving, waiting to see what we'll do next. Nobody says a word. It's like time has slowed down and all eyes are locked on him, ready for the signal to start the attack. Everyone knew their master's reputation was at stake, and the Blue Moon group wasn't about to let anyone disrespect them without answering for it. The document explained a plan to cut down RMC after the Count was taken out with poison. He grabs the paper and crushes it in his hand, set on doing something about the situation right away. 2 years later, Count died. Not many people showed up at his funeral, and the whole thing felt cold and empty. The doctors said he died from cardiac arrest. With the way he lived, nobody was really surprised. While everyone sat through the service, the main character picked up on people whispering about another Blue Moon attack. The news caught him off guard, and for a moment he just sat there, trying to process what he'd heard. It turns out the group set up an ambush at night and took out another gang, leaving no one standing. After what happened, the people in charge couldn't ignore the Blue Moon anymore. The nobles finally realized it was something real, not just rumors. You could see it on their faces. They were actually paying attention now. The Count's funeral ends quietly. Hardly anyone shows up to say goodbye, and the few people there don't seem bothered that he's gone. The whole thing wraps up fast without much emotion or fuss. After the ceremony, the main guy and his friend headed back to the mansion. Things felt weird with his dad gone, and nobody really knew what was supposed to happen next. His friend asked him what he planned to do now, but the answer wasn't clear. Everything felt up in the air, and the future seemed kind of blurry. The young man starts tossing his stuff into a bag, moving quick because they have to leave right away. He signals to his companion to get ready too, making it clear there's no time to mess around. Even just stands there, completely thrown off by what's happening. He can't believe they might actually be leaving the estate for good. The main character lets everyone know that things aren't exactly as they seem. They're just moving down to the southern part of their land, nothing more. As night settled in, it finally hit them. They'd be leaving soon, heading off to this tiny village called. After giving a nod, the main guy and his friends set off together, riding in a fancy carriage that would take them to where they'd be living next. Leo stood on the balcony, watching his younger siblings head out. He leaned against the railing, a slight cocky grin on his face, almost like he knew something they didn't and was enjoying it. He feels proud of himself, knowing he managed to get both his younger brother and his dad out of the picture at once. At the same time, the guy is in the kitchen of their new place, making himself some breakfast. He gets to work in the kitchen, moving around like he's done this 100 times before. A few minutes later, he's got a plate stacked with French toast that looks seriously good. 3 days later, things in village have settled down. People are going about their routines, and you can catch the smell of fresh food drifting through the streets. Everything feels calm, and everyone seems to be enjoying the little things, like eating together and just hanging out. He ended up back at the mansion, this time because his older brother had passed away. He stands there, barely able to wrap his head around being back in this place. Nothing looks the way he remembers from the game. Everything's just off, and he keeps asking himself why things are changing so much. He stared at the coffin, realizing the guy had died from a stab straight to the heart. The news left him frozen, unable to process how something like that could happen. Started thinking about who would actually have the guts and strength to take down his brother Leo. He tries to ask one of the guards what happened, but the guy just backs away, looking scared out of his mind. The guard quickly glances up, realizes what he's done, and starts to fumble an apology. Before he can finish, his buddy grabs him and pulls him away. The young guy stands at the funeral, looking around as everyone else seems to be losing it. People are crying hard, some are shaking, and a few can barely keep it together. He doesn't really get why everyone's reacting so strongly. It's confusing to watch, and he just stands there, unsure of what he's supposed to do or feel. As night rolled in, showed up, wanted to know if had discovered anything new. Even skips the question. His face turns serious as he wonders if the MC was actually the one who wrecked Avalon. He shuts down all the thoughts racing through his head that night and just stares, not believing what he's seeing. The story jumps back to the day Alan set out for Rod Mill Village. Wondered why he'd pick a small village instead of moving to a big city. The young master's face turned serious as he explained how was the last part of his plan. He explained how he managed to rescue the 5 sins, pulling them out before things got any worse. By stepping in, he stopped things from going way off track. Because of what he did, the world didn't end up getting wrecked. Because he stepped in, the kids finally had a chance to grow up safe and just be regular kids. The young guy explained that wasn't connected to the main story at all, but it still had a family villa sitting there. This place was just right for him. It was quiet, comfortable, and had everything he needed to enjoy life the way a noble should. Even wasn't as clueless as before. He'd figured out that his master always had some secret plan going on in the background. Whenever the young guy puts on that empty look, it's pretty clear he's hiding something big. The main guy notices that this dude is actually way sharper than he expected. Not wanting things to get awkward, he quickly tries to change the subject and end the chat. The older brother stood on the balcony, watching as his sibling's carriage rolled away down the long driveway. For a moment, he actually thought about getting rid of his little brother once and for all. The young man thought the other guy was pretty much worthless, and after their dad died, he even considered getting rid of him for good. Since the boy was on his way to the frontier, he figured he didn't need it anymore. Lately had been causing a lot of problems, and it was really getting on his nerves. Every time something annoying happened, he just got more fed up with it. It was starting to wear him down, and he couldn't help but get frustrated every time his name came up. His little brother always seemed to mess things up for him. No matter what he was doing, his brother found a way to get in the way or make things harder. It was like having an extra problem to deal with every single day. He called over his guy and told him to follow the carriage without letting it out of his sight. Almond, who always heads back, looked over to see what wanted to do about the young master. He waited for signal, trying to figure out if they were supposed to take the kid out or not. He turned his head, caught off guard and confused, not really sure why someone would ask him something so bluntly. Almond usually did whatever he was told, no questions asked, so seeing him hesitate now really didn't make sense. He just didn't get why the guy he trusted most was suddenly pushing back on what he said. It threw him off, and for a second, he had to wonder if something was up behind the scenes. The young man was starting to get really annoyed. He wasn't there to argue or talk back. He just needed to do what he was told. Before he could even get his words out, rushed at him, not holding back at all. Leo just stood there, frozen. He couldn't believe his own right-hand man had turned on him. His mind went blank, and for a moment everything around him felt distant, like he was watching it all happen to someone else. The trust he'd built up was gone in an instant, and he had no idea what to do next. Turns out the henchman actually likes war games. It turns out Almond has been hiding behind the blue moon this whole time, slipping away right when things were just starting to get interesting. The group sticks to a rule from the red moon, saying that the blue moon is their weapon. Anyone who tried to mess with the great moon would have to deal with some serious payback. Nobody in their right mind wanted to cross them, because everyone knew the response would be fast and intense. Lands the last hit, finishing what he started and making sure his master stays safe. Because of this rule, the Blue Moon Group can do their own thing whenever they need to protect their master. They don't have to wait for anyone's permission, and nobody gets in their way when it comes to keeping their master safe. Strikes for the last time, and the here drops to the ground, not moving anymore. He'd spent 2 years waiting for this moment. Now that he finally heard what he'd always suspected, he knew he had a reason to do something about it. Leo made it clear his crew would come after anyone who crossed him, but Hidden just ended things for Avalon without making a big scene. He thought it was kind of sad how the Great Moon had given everyone a shot, but people just wasted it. The agent stands on the rooftop, looking up at the moon for a moment. He takes it in, then turns away, heading off to get his job done. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the windows of Rod Mill. The main guy stretched and sat up, already in a good mood. It was was one of those days where everything just seemed to start off right. The village feels like paradise to him. As he wakes up, he can't help but feel grateful for another peaceful morning here. He's really enjoying this chill life, getting up and grabbing food whenever he feels like it. For the first time, the young man gets to experience what it's really like to live as a noble. He's surrounded by comfort everywhere he looks, soft beds, good food, and servants ready to help with anything. Everything feels new and a bit unreal, but he can't help enjoying it. He thinks about maybe starting a French toast business, pretty happy with how it came out. Everything's calm until bursts into the room, clutching a telegram that looks pretty serious. It's got that look on his face that tells you something up, and suddenly all the peace from before is gone. While he scrolled through the message, his toast just slipped right out of his mouth and hit the table. Alan got a telegram telling him to come back home because his brother Leo had died. The main character barely got to enjoy his peaceful break. After only 3 days, trouble showed up again and ruined the calm. He heads back to the mansion and notices right away that people are getting everything ready for another funeral. The young man looks around, confused. Everyone keeps acting weird and nervous whenever they get close to it, but he just doesn't get why. The way people keep glancing over their shoulders or stepping back makes him feel out of place, like he missed an inside joke or warning. It was late and things were already weird enough. Out of nowhere, his friend hit him with a straight-up question, wanting to know when he started running the show at Avalon. Basically, he found himself stuck in this endless loop where things just kept getting weirder and nobody seemed to get what he was actually doing. He really needed answers. The main guy just wanted to know how things got so messed up for him, how he somehow became the bad guy in his own story. He kept thinking back over everything, searching for any clue that could explain it, hoping for something, anything that would make it all make sense. Even goes on to say that Leo died right after they left. Because of that, the main character has a solid reason for what happened. When the truth comes out, the main guy just stops in his tracks. Everything that's happened so far suddenly makes sense, like puzzle pieces dropping into place. He can't believe how everything lines up so perfectly. It's almost unreal. For a second, he just stands there, taking it all in, trying to figure out what to do next. With Avalon gone, no one is around to question what happened to Leo. After everything that happened, he somehow ended up in charge of the whole county. Now, there's even a top-level assassin who's supposed to be working for him, though he never planned for any of this. The young guy just stands there, totally lost. He has no clue where to start or how to deal with everything that's happened. It's like his mind just blanks out, and he can't figure out what to do next. He thinks back to the night of the blue moon, wondering if maybe Ivan and his crew are the ones causing all the trouble. The thought sticks with him, making him uneasy as he tries to piece it all together. But later that night, the guild checked the facts and decided there was almost no way it could be true. He talks about how the group never leaves any bodies behind, but there's always some kind of mark left at the scene. Meanwhile, things were going downhill fast for Avalon's crew. The fight was brutal, with swords swinging everywhere. One by one, the guys from Avalon fell, each taken out in the wild chaos. The place looked like a total mess, with bodies down all around and no sign of things slowing down. RMC finally gets why everyone's looking at him like he's guilty. People think he's got a sword master working for him, and that alone is enough to put all eyes on him. He thinks back and realizes there was never a blue moon in the game, and that just makes everything even more confusing for him. While things were happening elsewhere, over at the Blue Moon's hideout, checked in with the group. He wanted to know if they'd left any signs behind that could get them caught. Checked and saw she hadn't left anything behind, almost like she wanted to prove how quick and efficient she could be. The fox-eared girl explained that their job mostly involved getting rid of huge piles of bodies. Out of nowhere, news came in that Avalon only had 456 fighters left. Just like their leader said, things turned out exactly the way he expected. Noticed how on point he was and gave him some credit for calling it right. Redden likes to show off, often talking about how he takes down every enemy without holding back. He tells his friends how he never hesitates and always finishes the fight, making sure nobody gets back up again. Yuji looked pretty pleased with herself. She knew the plan had worked out just like she hoped. Avalon used to be this huge group that basically ran things in the kingdom of. That night under the blue moon, that didn't stand a chance. One by one, they were wiped out, the whole place turning into a scene nobody could forget. In only 5 days, Avalon was gone. The whole place got wiped out, leaving behind nothing but dust and ashes. Radian jumps in, letting everyone know the cleanup job isn't done yet. Doesn't get it and just looks puzzled, trying to figure out what Radian means. He hands over a document that lists even more nobles connected to the criminal group. Word had it that the Duchy of was seriously caught up in shady business. Goes quiet for a bit. Even though she doesn't say anything, it's obvious what's on her mind just by looking at her face. She stands there, eyes narrowed and jaw set. There's no hesitation on her face. She's already decided what needs to happen next. The rest of the guys in the Blue Moon tents were getting ready for their next mission. They checked their gear, made sure everything was in order, and tried to keep their nerves in check. Some of them looked focused, while others tried to joke around to lighten the mood. Even though they'd done this before, everyone knew that each mission could be different. Flashes a sly grin, making it clear he's got everything under control and plans to take care of things without drawing any attention. Breathes out, finally able to relax a little now that everything seems to be going the way he hoped. She wonders if the Information Guild is keeping things low-key. Made it clear he wasn't blaming the Blue Moon for what happened. Everyone in the guilds was blaming the chaos on the Sword Master. They saw the mess and destruction and just assumed he was behind it all. Reminds everyone to stay alert. No one can let this get back to their master, so they all know they have to keep quiet and watch out for any slip-ups. Dis points out that their master's own family member tried to hurt him, so they just acted before anything worse could happen. She gives him a serious look, making sure he remembers that they're supposed to act like a weapon. No second-guessing, no personal opinions. The Blue Moon wouldn't budge unless its master, the Great Moon, told it to. She lets them know not to mess things up with that person, since means the world to her. He just couldn't figure out why she looked so stressed. It didn't make sense to him at all. To him, someone as strong as her shouldn't get anxious or nervous. It just didn't make sense that someone with that much power could feel that way. The boy grabs the document and gives a small nod, showing he's got the message and knows what they need to do next. Everything they do is for the Great Moon, the one who means everything to them. To everyone, the moon isn't just important. It's the reason behind what they do every day. Back at the mansion, the main guy is totally wiped out. He can't handle any more work and just wants to crash. After the funeral, he barely had time to breathe. For the next month, he was stuck at a desk, sorting through stacks of paperwork and dealing with family stuff that just wouldn't end. Now that the game's timeline had changed, the heir realized all the responsibility was on him. He could feel the pressure building, knowing everyone was counting on him to step up. It wasn't just about playing anymore. Everything rested on the choices he made from here on out. Out of nowhere, showed up with even more paperwork. The sight of all those new stacks just crushed his spirit. It was like every time he thought he was caught up, another mountain landed on his desk. He slumped back, barely able to process how much more he had to get through. The young man watches everyone around him suddenly hustling, putting in way more effort than before. It throws him off, since these same people used to slack off all the time. Now, seeing them act so different, he can't help but wonder what changed. People around the vassal see his frustration and mistake it for anger. Not wanting to get on his bad side, they start pushing themselves even harder, hoping to stay out of trouble. RMC noticed that the rumors going around about him being this cold, calculating boss were actually pushing his team to work harder. Even though he hadn't meant for that to happen, people seemed more focused and determined whenever he was around. It was like everyone wanted to prove themselves or maybe avoid getting on his bad side, so the whole place felt a little more intense than before. In a dim room, sat by the fireplace, turning sweet potatoes over the glowing coals. The quiet crackle of the fire filled the space as he watched them cook, the warmth from the flames brushing against his face. He notices how much his master has improved over the last 2 years and can't help but be impressed. After only 2 years of teaching themselves, the guys had already made it to the second circle of magic. Normally, getting to that level would take 4 years, and it was only possible for someone who was naturally talented. The main guy spent hours training non-stop because he always felt on edge and wanted to be able to protect himself. On top of that, the move he's pulling off needs super careful mana control. One small slip, and things could go sideways fast. He kept thinking about his power and couldn't help but question why he even had it. It barely worked half the time, and when it did, it wasn't strong enough to really do anything useful. The whole thing just felt pointless to him. At first, he couldn't believe he'd ever get to use magic. Just thinking about it got him hyped. The young man thought that after he finished his plan, he'd finally get some peace and could study when he wanted. He found out the hard truth. His pool skills weren't just bad, they were almost funny. Some guys just have that natural pool player vibe, kind of like how some athletes are just built for their sport. It's something they're born with, not something you can just pick up overnight. His magic power is super low, barely there at all, and because of that, he can't use much magic. It really gets to him and leaves him pretty annoyed. No matter how hard anyone trains, the stay's tiny. It's just not enough, and nothing seems to change that. Just when things seem tricky, the main guy isn't out of moves yet. He's got something planned, and right on cue, steps in holding an invite to a fancy dance. The young guy gets an invitation, and honestly, he's totally confused. He's got no clue what a formal dance even is. When he finally shows up at the place, he walks into this fancy ballroom packed with well-dressed nobles. Everyone's either dancing or chatting in groups, and it all feels way fancier than anything he's used to. The main guy and his friend walked in, both dressed sharp and looking like they put real effort into their outfits. Their style caught some attention, standing out just enough to make people look their way. Just seeing all those high society people drains the young master. He hasn't even done anything yet, but he already feels tired. Every so often, the nobles from the southern part of the kingdom got together for this ball. It was just something they always did, a regular event where everyone dressed up and showed off a little. The young man knows he's next in line to be the count, so he figures this is his chance to meet some important people and make connections. He noticed right away that all the nobles were steering clear of him. Some people even hurried off the moment they saw him coming, like they just didn't want to be anywhere near him. One of the guests locks eyes with the main guy and instantly goes pale, looking like he's about to pass out right there. The main guy just stands there, totally confused, while all the nobles step aside to let him through. It's almost like he's walking around with a tray in his hands, but he has no idea why everyone's reacting this way. Tries to calm his master down, but the guy just shrugs it off like it doesn't bother him at all. He saw it coming. Everyone around here talked about how the family didn't really fit in with the rest of the East Side, but the hero wasn't caught off guard. He knew things might get tough, so he came ready. He already had an idea for how he could flip things in his favor. He grabs a glass of wine and gets ready to use the social skills he's been working on when no one was watching. The young guy walks up to a woman, noticing how different the wine tastes and smells. He gives her a small, friendly smile and lets her know he's interested in getting a few bottles for himself. His smile looked so fake and creepy that the woman couldn't help but get scared. She looks at him with big, startled eyes, her hand shaking so much her wine glass almost slips. Fear has her frozen in place. The main guy still isn't great at talking to people. He definitely needs more practice with that. The woman, clearly stressed out, promises to handle things right away. She plans to talk to her dad as soon as possible so they can get the wine sorted. People around started whispering to each other, saying he was even worse than his brothers. Some of them actually thought he was a real monster. The main character tries to make sense of what's going on. He figures the young woman is probably just really shy, so he tells himself not to overthink it. Back at the mansion, word started going around that the young guy's stash of gifts had gotten even bigger. The new stuff he picked up had some pretty cool finds. A really nice horse, some rare teas, valuable metals, and that limited edition wine everyone kept talking about. He gets annoyed when he finds out the police show's name is way more well-known than he expected. People started whispering that he took out his own brothers, so now everyone keeps their distance. No one wants to get on his bad side. He couldn't see any way to really fit in, so he headed outside for a bit, hoping the cool air would help him think straight. As the young master walked off, a woman with bright red hair kept her eyes on him. She seemed deep in thought, quietly following his every move. She watches him head out toward the balcony, not taking her eyes off him as he slips away from the busy ballroom. Out on the balcony, he leans against the railing, lost in his own thoughts. He can't help but replay everything in his head, trying to figure out when things started to mess up. The plan seemed solid at first, but now he's stuck wondering what he missed. The city lights don't give any answers, but he just stands there, hoping for some kind of clue. Out of nowhere, a girl's voice grabs his attention, wanting to talk to him. The young man spun around, surprised to see someone coming up to him right in the middle of the ball. He tried to figure out who'd actually walk over to him like that, especially with everyone else busy dancing and chatting. He squints, trying to see her face in the low light, but it's just shadows. Her voice, though, grabs his attention and puts him a little on edge. The girl steps up and lets everyone know her name is. She's the third daughter from House. The main character spots the name right away. He remembers this family as one of the big troublemakers in the game, always causing problems for everyone. He walks up to her, feeling a bit uneasy, since everyone knows the family always brings drama. House stands out as one of the three big families in the game. Most people know them as the black sheep of the North. The main guy thinks that if someone's actually coming up to talk to him, they've got to be pretty different from everyone else. He couldn't remember ever seeing this girl before, and that got him wondering who she was. Doesn't waste any time. She looks right at him, her eyes showing just how badly she needs help. She asks him for help, and the main guy turns to look at her. His eyes are serious, almost cold, and there's something about his stare that makes it clear he isn't messing around. The girl shares a secret that's honestly pretty scary. Someone is actually planning to kill her. Out on the balcony, she finally lets him know what's been weighing on her. She opens up about why she's been so down lately, sharing everything that's been bothering her. He leans in, paying close attention while she explains the tough spot she's in. Let it be known that, growing up as the daughter of her dad's mistress, she was used to having his attention and always felt safe around him. Now that the Duke was seriously sick, she didn't have anyone to protect her anymore. She shares that her own sisters are trying to get rid of her so they can take all the inheritance for themselves. The main character listened to her story and realized she was fighting just to get by, just like everyone else in this tough world. He suddenly gets it. There's a reason he doesn't remember her from the game's original story. She wasn't around anymore. Asks Alan for help, but Alan shuts him down right away, not even considering it. The guy already has enough on his plate and really doesn't want to deal with someone else's family issues. He thinks about it for a second and realizes that, even if he wanted to step in, he doesn't really have any cool abilities or powers that could actually do anything. The guy steps away, leaving the girl alone out on the balcony. He doesn't doesn't look back, just keeps moving while she stands there, not sure what'll happen next. Before leaving, he glances back at her and lets her know that good things are on the horizon for her. He really hopes she finds someone strong to back her up, especially with her sister out to get her. From far away, the red-haired woman watched what was happening. She saw step up to someone important, almost like he was meeting a big deal, like the moon itself. She took it all in quietly, thinking about what this could mean for. She thinks about warning the red moon, but just as she's about to do something, another person in a cloak shows up and blocks her. The figure shakes his head, making it clear that there's no need for backup. If what they heard is true, she's not by herself. Turns out, isn't the only one in the family who doesn't have any ties to Avalon. Isn't on Radon's list right now, so he's safe for the time being. The figure seemed almost relieved, thinking things would get easier now that the other was about to be taken out. Up on a balcony above the busy ballroom, a group kept a close eye on the main character. While everyone else was caught up in the party below, these guys were focused on him, already thinking of ways to block any info he might get. They're doing whatever it takes to keep the Avalon incident a secret from him. No matter what, he can't find out. Back at the ball, the main character notices something strange. The whole hall feels empty, almost like he's the only one there, even though people are around. It's as if something invisible is keeping him apart from everyone else. The red-haired woman walks up to him and says hi. For a second, he thinks this might actually be his chance to talk to someone and maybe make a friend. As he turned around, he spotted her face and instantly remembered seeing her in the game. Right away, he knew she was another one of those sketchy people he needed to watch out for. The young man figures that if someone actually comes up and talks to him, there's no way they're a regular noble. He walks up to her and gives a polite hello, kind of stiff like he's not sure how she'll react. She looks at him, caught off guard that he actually recognizes her. The guy plays it cool, letting her know he's already heard about her. She looks kind of pleased, like she wasn't expecting that. The story then gives, the kingdom had 3 big families everyone knew about. Each house had its own style and way of doing things, and people in the kingdom could always tell them apart. Their names always came up in conversations about power, respect, and the real decision-making behind the scenes. Most guys in town could probably list the 3 houses by heart, since their stories and rivalries were kind of legendary online and in real life. In the North Stand's house, everyone knew's name. Most people didn't talk about it out loud, but everyone had heard the stories about the secrets hidden there and the strange power that seemed to hang in the air. Over in the East, Sohn family is at the center of things. They might not get along all the time, but they're the ones the story keeps coming back to. Out west, there's the family. They're known for being pretty dangerous, with a history of crime that everyone talks about. Most people tend to keep their distance from them. Is the oldest daughter of Count. She's not just known for her family name. She's a big deal in the city's underworld, too. Most guys in town have heard stories about her, but few have actually seen her doing business. She moves through the shadows with confidence, always staying one step ahead. Compared to the street-level chaos of the run things like a high-end business, but with way more danger. Their operations are smooth, quiet, and nobody really knows how deep their influence goes. While they make noise in the alleys, they control things from the shadows, making moves that hit way harder. RMC's mind started racing. He came here hoping to make some friends and keep things chill, but all he's running into is one problem after another. It definitely wasn't what he signed up for. He tries to change the subject by pointing out how good she looks. She doesn't make a big deal out of it and just smiles, taking the compliment with no fuss. Gives him a look and signals that she wants to talk somewhere quieter. Right away, his mind starts racing. He tries to play it cool on the outside, but inside, he's suddenly nervous and can't stop overthinking what might happen next. He turns down the offer, not wanting to draw attention from everyone around. All he really wants is a chill night without any drama. Looked at him and smiled, thinking about how he really lived up to all the rumors. There was something mysterious about him, just like everyone said. She says goodbye and walks away, and he stands there, not sure what to think. The way things ended makes him restless, almost like he's waiting for something that might never happen. The young guy couldn't stop thinking about what just happened. Running into her like that caught him off guard, and now he kept replaying the moment in his head, trying to figure out what she was really after. Up on a ledge, a group of people in cloaks kept an eye on everything below. They seemed pretty focused, making sure the whole Avalon situation was under control. Now something else was starting to bother him. Was paying a lot more attention to the hero lately, and it wasn't going unnoticed. They decide to keep a close eye on her, ready to take her out if she ever becomes a problem for their boss. The main guy and his friends showed up at this empty canyon late at night. The place was quiet and kind of creepy, making his friend wonder if they were really supposed to be there. The young guy's eyes light up. After all this time, he's finally figured out what he's really after, the Southern Labyrinth. He's serious this time, thinking to himself how much easier it was to find this spot in the game. Honestly, the only reason he headed south was because of the Labyrinth of Whispers, a hidden dungeon most people didn't even know about. Inside, there are 8 different rooms, each with its own puzzle waiting to be solved. Whoever makes it through all of them gets to take home a rare artifact as the big prize at the end. The main guy still remembers hours each step to get stronger, and he can't wait to finally level up. He stood in front of the labyrinth's entrance, actually seeing it for the first time. The walls were covered in glowing runes, lighting up the place in a way that looked almost unreal. He couldn't help but be impressed. This was way cooler than anything he'd imagined. He used to get bored of this spot when playing the game, but now that he was actually here in real life, everything hit different. The sights and sounds felt way more real, and it was like he was noticing things he never cared about before. Wondered how the guy knew about spots like that. The young man didn't give a straight answer, just hinted that he used to go there a lot back in the day. He liked to mess around, acting mysterious and pretending he had secrets. The way he kept a straight face every time just made it funnier, and it always got people telling him to cut it out. Out of nowhere, a monster smashed through the wall. Right away, the hero knew he was in trouble. He lets everyone know that if they mess up the puzzle in the chamber, the creature isn't going to hold back. It'll crush them. The main guy heads over to the altar, trying to get his nerves under control before facing the first challenge. Even watches his master, surprised by how calm he stays, even when things are getting dangerous. Even after 4 years, still can't really understand his master. No matter how much time passes, the guy just stays unpredictable, always keeping guessing. The knight can't figure out how his master always seems to know everything, even though he's never actually been anywhere else. Even so, he trusts the guy completely. Every time he's listened to him before, things have worked out. The main character winces at the nasty scene in front of him, turning his head so fast it almost hurts. After figuring out the last puzzle, they finally stepped into the final chamber, ready to see what was waiting for them. The main character tells even to just grab the black ring and leave everything else. He doesn't bother with the other treasures. He's only interested in that one thing. Looked at the plain ring, not really sure why anyone would want something so simple. The other guy just shrugged, like he knew exactly what he was doing. He seemed pretty sure the fancier stuff would only bring problems. After a long journey, the hero managed to get his hands on the Ring of Restriction. It wasn't just any ring. It was known for holding serious power, and everyone who knew about it wanted it for themselves. Now, with the ring secured, things were about to change for him in a big way. He tries to make his friend feel better, saying the way back will be fine, but his buddy isn't really convinced and still feels uneasy as they head into the night. As soon as they step out, they realize they're not alone. All around them, giant stone golems are waiting. These things have been guarding the labyrinth for ages, and now they're blocking the way forward. Evan's heart starts racing, but he pulls himself together fast. He gets into a fighting stance, determined to defend his master no matter what. He says he's got things under control, but the younger guy isn't planning to do it his way. He's already thinking up his own plan, ready to try something different. Right now, all he can think about is getting out of there. He signals his crew to stay sharp and be ready to bolt at any second. Second circle magic wasn't going to do much against these tough golems. The main character slips on the ring, and suddenly, light bursts out all around him. It's so bright he can barely see, like someone just turned on a spotlight right in his face. Everything else fades away for a second as the power from the ring kicks in. Suddenly, a strange voice fills the air, letting him know that he's now got the great will of. The voice tells him to pick 2 rules he wants to set using the ring's power. The main character remembers that in this part of the game, a menu popped up where he had to pick something. He figures out that the voice belongs to the labyrinth. It's not just some random sound. It's actually the prize he earned, a new power that lets him control what others can and can't do. Now, he's got the power to set 2 brand new rules that can actually change how the whole world works. The Ring of Restriction is a special item that gives its wearer extra power, but there's a catch. Whoever uses it has to follow certain rules that hold them back. The voice sounds so real that it makes his heart race, and he gets ready to lay down his first rule. From now on, he decides that every magic spell has to use the hand signs from. The voice wanted to know what he wanted out of this, and the guy didn't hesitate. He said he wanted the power to change the way the world worked. His wish actually comes true, and right away, he can tell something's different. There's this sudden rush of energy running through him, making him feel stronger and more alive than before. He gets ready to say what he wants next, noticing the voice paying close attention to him. The young man decides that everyone has to use the sacred words for all spells. No shortcuts, no other words, just those exact ones every time. He hears the voice ask what he wants in return. Without hesitating, he says he wants the same power he had before. For a second, the strange voice goes quiet, and the main guy starts to feel uneasy. He started to doubt himself, unsure if he'd messed up, even though he the skill icon exactly. Turns out, picking both the seals and the special words gives him the strongest magic attack he can get. The request goes through, and the voice seems pretty pleased that he actually remembered what the old god used to teach. The voice calls him the heir of the will. That catches him off guard and leaves him confused, not sure what to make of it. Quickly tries to get his master's attention, hoping he remembers that his second circle typical magic isn't strong enough against these enemies. The other player lines up for a shot, ready to kick with everything he's got. But the main guy doesn't flinch. He just stands his ground, totally sure of himself and the new skills he's picked up. He realizes his own weak magic just isn't enough anymore. And if he wants to get anywhere, he's going to need something stronger. He gathers up all his energy and manages to pull together a small ball of lightning. It's not all that bright, just barely glowing in his hands. He realizes that no matter how hard he trains, there's just a point he can't get past. It's like hitting a wall. He knows his body has limits, and pushing any harder won't change that. Now that he has this new restriction power, he's set to see what he can actually do. He sends the ball of lightning flying at the golem army, and watches closely to see what happens next. He taps into his new power, but deep down, he knows the ring won't let him get away with it for free. Using it always comes with a cost, and he can already feel the weight of what's coming.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Web2 Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.